We'll call the meeting to order and start with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Eric will.
Okay, so Eric is not going to be with us tonight?
Correct.
Is that what I hear? Okay. So we have two sets of minutes to approve. We'll start. First order, we'll go with the September 17th, 2024. Is there a motion for their approval? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any changes, additions, deletions we would want to make? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, next set of minutes is October 1st, 2024. Is there a motion for their approval?
So moved.
Brad, second? Second. Second by John. Any changes, modifications people would like to make? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
They are passed. Thank you very much. We are at public comment. We do not have public in the room, and we do not have public virtually. We'll move on to the treasurer's report. Madam Treasurer.
Okay, thank you. Nice to see everybody. Okay, so we will begin with our executive summary as of September 30, 2024. So fiscal year to date, the town has received revenue of $29,357,905, or 57.1% of the total amount of $51,440,042 budgeted for fiscal year 25. When comparing our performance to last fiscal year, we are 0.1% behind from this time last year. Next, we'll move to the authorized investment section. At the end of September, the town had $43.2 million in its bank accounts. In the last month, the STIP rate has declined slightly to 5.39%, and today it is at 5%. Webster gives us the STIP rate in arrears, so last month it was at 5.55, which was still very good. So in September, we had a bond come due in our cash management account, and we reinvested it for fiscal year 25 income purposes, $2.2 million at a rate of 4.273%, holding to maturity to June 15th, 2025. We will hold that bond for revenue of $69,607. We then will satisfy our fiscal 25 revenue income at a total of $613,908. Will be our revenue for fiscal year 25, holding all our bonds to maturity in fiscal year 25. Any questions on that? Okay. Then we'll move down to the pension plan. So at the end of September, we received our report from Morgan Stanley. The town pension plan is up 5.45% fiscal year to date versus its benchmark of 6.04%. Over the 3-year horizon, the town plan has returned 3.64% versus its benchmark of 5.26%. The fire department pension plan is up 5.17% fiscal year to date and has returned 3.93% over the 3-year horizon versus its benchmark of 5.26%. So overall, the treasurer's responsibility is to oversee all monies belonging to the town. So as of September 30, we had total cash balances of $43.2 million. Total pension balances were $31.1 million. For total assets under management of $74.3 million. So we'll move to page 2 of the treasurer's report, showing the revenues broken out in more detail. tax revenues were $322,626 for the month, bringing the fiscal year-to-date total to $28,189,948, or 57.1% of the amount budgeted for fiscal year '25. We received state revenue in the middle section of $60,799 from the pilot program of in lieu of local property taxes. Any questions there?
Is that gonna be one shot? Or will there be another check on in pilot?
I have a feeling that that's gonna be it, right, Leah?
Yes, that should, we usually only get one. I mean, never say never, but,
Never say never.
typically we only get one.
If they send us more, we would take it, right?
Yeah, well, of course.
It's already over the budgeted amounts.
I know. Yeah, so that's probably it. So in terms of local revenues, mixed it up a little differently this time, Bruce.
Yeah, I see it.
In terms of local revenues, the town collected $215,708 locally, or a total of $599,132 in local revenues, for a total of $29,357,905, or 57.1% of our fiscal year '25 budget. Sorry, oh, never mind. Recording fees brought in $106,279, which I thought was an amazing amount of money for 1 month. And building permits brought in $92,845 last month. They were both like, wow, for 1 month. Unbelievable, but I stopped in the town clerk's office just to look something up on the land records myself, and was speaking to one of the clerks, and she said they had recorded in September, I think they recorded a large commercial property, the Hartford Healthcare properties were recorded in September, even though it looks like they were open prior to that, but they must have just closed that month, and that's what brought in the large recording fee. So,
The ones up by Pasta Vida.
yes, yeah. So you received a lot of money from that, the town received, so, that was good to know. But, man, they're like gangbusters, those two departments. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions? Sure.
So, I think the last we talked, there were some changes in terms of how, car taxes are gonna be, calculated. Has that started yet? It has, so is that,
Well,
Not for-
the law is effective October 1 of 2024, so it'll affect it'll affect the next budget season.
So this budget is still based on the old code.
okay, I see, right.
Any other questions?
One question, on the pension funding, do you have an annual percentage increase or decrease to the funding rate? Like it's at, right now, the town pension fund is funded at 85.2. On an annual basis, can you provide whether it went up 2% in the funding or 1% or decreased?
I think Leanne can probably answer that one.
So I think, year over year, I don't have the number, but it wasn't very much. It stayed right around 85%. And the reason why it didn't jump, even though we had, a lot of good reasons for it to go up, is because of the changes that we had made to the assumptions. We decreased the assumed rate, which kind of offset all the positive gains that we would have had, if you recall, when Morgan Stanley came in. However, this year, our actuary told us that we don't have, she recommended us to keep the assumed rate flat. So I suspect, and we had a good year financially at the end of the past fiscal year, that when they do the report this, usually we get it in about February or March, that we'll probably see a point or two jump in the funded ratio this year.
Would it be a big deal to just provide that number once a year?
Okay.
To see, so you can see
Just on the funding,
prior
we're at
year.
85.2, went to 86.2.
Okay, we can do
I
that.
mean, Is it worthwhile? I don't.
So I'll put the
just asking
funded,
the question.
yeah, no, I mean, I
I
think
don't
it
want
shows
busy
the
work.
it shows the progress. I have those numbers, I'll just put funded ratio, current and prior year.
You want that every month
Well,
or
I'll
just
just,
gonna
it
do it
doesn't,
once a
it
year?
doesn't change, it's a once a year
Okay.
number.
Once a year.
Once a year.
I mean,
Once a year is fine, okay. Yep,
It's
it's
been
easy
working,
enough.
it's
to
working.
provide.
And,
Sure.
Okay, Georgia.
no, we can come back to the car tax again. Would that be the second line item in the top section of your report? The PP tax revenues, that's budgeted for 100,000?
That goes into current taxes, all this comes in together, the current taxes.
It doesn't get broken out.
Does not get
I see.
broken out.
So the 49 million combines both the home and car?
Everything, property, car, and commercial.
Okay, sure. Sorry, all right, very
Yeah,
good.
and then the other one's PP is prior period. So
Right.
delinquent and then interest on that is the first one.
Yeah, no, because there was some question whether the change will actually increase or decrease how much we collect from cars, right? It should,
It
yeah,
will.
yeah. But be curious, we have to break it out to see that.
And just getting back to the pension, less concerned with 85, 86, good question, but I mean, I know we want to see it as, but more important is, are we funding it appropriately? No? Are
No,
we,
no, I just want to know. just
Yeah.
the point of interest.
right, and
And no comment on the performance. or anything.
yeah, but whether we're putting in the amount of money that our Milliman is saying to the town, if you want to pay the benefits from this pension plan, this is the amount you need to put in. And we were not doing that
Yeah,
up to a few years ago, and we are doing it now. And we're incredibly well funded, so, and we're doing it with both the fire department pension, which is like 50% funded because it's a newer plan and we'll build to full funding. We've always made those contributions to the actuarial defined contribution, and we're doing that now with the town pension, so anyway.
I agree.
Okay, any other questions of the treasurer? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Leanne, finance director report.
All right, good evening, everyone. So we finished the first quarter of fiscal year 25, so we have that under our belt. And we are, coming in as expected in terms of expenditures. With regard to the ARPA appropriations, there's been, I don't know if anybody's going to talk about that tonight, but I will just say that we started to track it so that we, we're getting close to the December 2024 deadline when we have to make all of our obligations. And I know that Bruce is working, and his committee is working very hard on that. But we do have some of those obligations where we, give money out every single month. So during the month of September, we had expenditures of about $36,000 that were used of the money that has already been appropriated. In terms of the cash flow summary, the general fund, as the treasurer noted, took in $600,000. We had expenditures of 3.2, a very typical month, nothing unusual, which resulted in the minus the outflow of $2.7 million. In capital funds, minus $66,000. That was for partial payment for the generator at the Acton Public Library that's being installed. And of the reserve funds, I made a typo. Actually, the reserve funds are minus $32,000 and the non-major funds are minus $315,000. But the $32,000, we purchased, remember the big belly trash cans and the fence, the chain link fence that was already approved, those were installed and we paid for them. And then non-major funds were down $315,000. And again, the typical pension fund management outflow and infant family services budget for those. Capital outlay, just wanted to point out, fire department apparatus is minus $295,000. If you recall, you approved the grant money for the radios. it was a grant that we paid, submit the expenses, then we get reimbursed for. So we paid for it, and we need to have $589,000 returned to us at some point in the near future. I expect that soon. We also paid for our annual debt service payment on the fire trucks, $107,000. That happened in September. Public Works minus $56,000. We have a purchase order out for $517,000 for the equipment for that. So that's going to go even more negative as we planned in the near future. All of the other capital outlays, there was not a lot of there was no activities in those. So those remain the same. As far as the capital that's in each department's budget, so far we've spent $221,000 of the $693, and we've made all of our pension payments, and we actually have made almost all of our debt service payments. And when I looked over the individual budgets, I saw absolutely nothing out of order. Everything looks like it's coming in as expected. So other than that, we've begun work on the budget already. All of our departments have their budgets, working on the long-term capital plan and the debt service plan that I'm sure you can't wait to see that again. And the auditors are going to be here to finish up the first week in November. So hopefully we'll have our financials completed by the end of December as they should be. And there's an awful lot going on, but that's all that I have to report on.
Other questions for Finance Director George?
Just I mean, you were mentioning that all the departments need to create their budget. Just a request, a favor actually, for the use of camera services. I mean, I love the pictures they put in, but last year that file was over 25 megabytes, which was almost impossible. It was impossible to send. I never got it. I tried. I think it was impossible. First, I never get it. So they can just reduce the pictures or not send pictures. I think that would be helpful, right?
So we do. Carl does mention that to them every single year to keep it to the numbers, and we have already scheduled the first round of meetings with the department heads. They're going to occur for Carl, myself, not the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Finance, but we're going to have our first rounds the first week of December, and I'm going to be sure to bring that up. I do tell them every year, I'm sure you know that.
Yeah.
But they like the audience, and they like to tell the great things because they all work really hard, and they like to show it off. But I know you guys want to focus on the numbers.
But it's also, that report was impossible to send, 25 megabytes.
To pull down, yeah, right.
Well, I think I bothered you for so long last year to do this. I think we never succeeded. We actually just gave up. So,
Yeah, I'll make sure you can get it this
Thank you
year.
very much.
Anything else? Man, on the debt service, why don't we pay debt service a full amount in one chunk versus almost all of it and then 10% later?
So that has to do with when we go to market, how they want to structure it, and it mainly the first payments come out in July and August on purpose, because that's when we get our new budget, we get all of our tax money in, so we know that we can have the money there for the payments. That's the primary reason. Debt service is typically every 6 months on all bonds. Our interest is paid semi-annually, and so it becomes a question of when we pull these bonds together, how do we want this debt service to look? How do we want our cash flows to look? What are the investors looking for in terms of their cash flows? What gives us the best all-in rate? And it's a multitude of factors, and it always has been that way for municipal bonds. The biggest chunk of principal upfront, smaller chunk payment in this other 6 months.
So that would be a January payment.
That's a January, February. Yeah, we have July, August, and January, February.
Got it, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Leanne. We'll move on. To the discussion and consideration of the $114,000 $786 appropriation for the purpose of digitizing property files. Larry is with us, if you'd like to join us. You may remember that we discussed this at our last meeting. This was one of three different ideas that Larry had come forward with for potential use of the ARPA funds. As Leanne mentioned, the ARPA committee met. We did consider recommending to the Board of Selectmen one of those projects, which is the three different displays around town, digital displays, but we did not consider this one. So this is now in front of us. It's been through the Board of Selectmen, correct?
It has been, yes.
Leanne?
And just wanted to mention that the motion from the Board of Selectmen was for 100,000. I wrote 114,000 because that's what the proposal was, but I just want to make sure everybody knows that the motion from the Board of Selectmen was for 100,000.
What we need is 114,000. Is that correct?
Yes, well, that's what the proposal said.
That was including a contingency.
Okay, so our vote tonight should be for 114,786 as an all-in number. Is that the recommendation?
Yes.
That's your recommendation.
That's my recommendation.
Okay. Given that, clear up any confusion there. Let's, Larry, I don't know whether you want to go any further than what you've done, or whether you just want to take questions. What would be the?
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure that I was in the room in case there were any questions as
Yeah.
part of the discussion. I think we talked about this once in this forum before. And some of the people have seen it in the ARPA forum also. So if there are any questions, I'm certainly happy to go ahead and answer them if I can. Otherwise, I don't know unless, okay.
Okay, so let's do questions and answer. Any questions? George?
Quick one, so this is a chunk of work where they're gonna be basically digitizing a room or file cabinets with paper.
Yes,
And it's, we're not just a get of how many pieces of paper there are.
so the estimate based upon the survey that was done by the company. So there are upstairs above us. We hope the ceiling is strong. There are 165 file drawers full of paper in terms of the property files. The estimate is somewhere in the vicinity of 600,000 pages of standard size formats, whether it be legal or letter, and an additional maybe 16,000 large format documents, things that would be in the category of building plans, architectural drawings, and things like that, that would have to be go ahead and brought across.
Right, so I guess my question is, we're voting on a specific number. I don't quite understand how these processes work, whether how much fudge factor there's in there, right? So the 10% contingency is that if they go, oh, it can go, that's already part of the 114,000. I guess my question is, if they go over that because they get the last two cabinets and then they run out of money, do they just keep going, or how does that work?
So the estimate was intended to be on the high side.
You know, all right.
In terms of what the experience has been. The company that has done this has done many of these same type of property files in different municipalities and towns around the state. So their ability to go ahead and eyeball it and come in pretty close on what's there is fairly good. And I suspect that there's going to be, that there will be less as part of the process. The intent is to, because the way the process will work, the documents will be packaged up piecemeal, different groups of them, they'll be boxed up and taken out for scanning and then brought back. And as part of the process, the land use department, the building departments, as they are boxing them, are going to be doing a quick review to, as they're moving them into the boxes to shipment, getting rid of stuff that has no purpose being in there. So if they run into situations where you've got multiple copies of the document, they'll ditch the multiple copies. There are some categories of documentation in there that they do not feel is necessary to be carried forward in the property files. There isn't a legal requirement to retain them. And if that's the case, then they can go ahead and purge some of that stuff out. So they expect to be a little bit of shrinkage in the volume as that process is going along also. Did that answer the question?
You did, thank you. And I just, not to follow up again. I mean, there's, on page 4, my copy is I just have to read, even this copy is have to read, but there's an annual maintenance fee to access their service. I think there's a question about this last time. Do you guys know what it was?
It's page 4, what are you?
Well, it's this table, I'm just wondering whether somewhere in this table is actually like a price of what the annual fee is to use it.
You're saying it's not
Oh,
listed?
I don't know, it could be in here, but I can't read it.
Okay, so the annual fee associated with the document indexing or the storage of the documents online. So that's why I'm trying to figure out what.
Yeah, no, I haven't found it, but I mean, this is not a one-time payment to this company. We're gonna be paying them every year for quite a while.
I could potentially say close to forever,
Oh, sure, okay.
but not necessarily these guys. So in terms of the way the project is set up, and there are 2 other vendors that are being approached. I've got a quote from another one, which is around about the same amount of money. And there's a 3rd vendor that would be considered should this go forward. But regardless of the vendor that actually does the scanning, the intent is to go ahead and put it up in the cloud in the Laserfish environment. So in the Laserfish environment, the dollars and cents of that are actually pretty well known. So for the amount of storage that we need, the amount of user accounts that we need to go ahead and handle this, we're talking 6 user accounts at $800 a year, so it would be $4,800 for the overall storage and access fees to be able to use it and have it connected up to the systems for the department to use. So the ongoing expense would be the $4,800. We are currently, at this point, contracted with Laserfish for $1,800 for services that we're currently using. So it would be a plus $3,000 to go ahead and maintain the facility on the web.
And what about future files, digitization of future files? I know you'd like to receive most files in form anyway, but not everything will be. Will somebody have that responsibility ongoing?
Yes. So the intent of the land use department is to require all submissions that they have coming in to come in digitally. And in particular, large format documents and plans and things like that have got to come in digitally. So nobody has to deal with manually scanning them and bringing them up. And once they're in, it is a simple drag copy operation to stick it up into the archive. It's very simple. It's actually simpler to do it into the Laserfish archive than it is to do it into a local archive, which they have gotten very good at. The process that they go through now, every piece of documentation that comes in paper, the clerks scan it, digitize it, and put it out to disk. So everything that's coming in is currently being scanned and done. Anecdotally, they've been doing this for 3 or 4 years. In that 3 or 4 years, they've managed, and between the documents coming in and clerks working spare time when they've got nothing else to do scanning, they've managed to get through about 30,000 documents. So if they were to continue at that rate, they might get done in 20 years in terms of what we're capable of doing in-house as far as the scanning is concerned. With the industrial speed that these people are able to be done, we expect it to be done in 3 or 4 months once it starts.
And then my last question there is, one of the things that you had mentioned in one of the forum that I've been in is the idea of being able to extract the private information from the documents. And so will that happen prior to the scanning, or how will we be able to protect that information?
So the intention is on the initial scanning and archiving to digitize it, get it up there, but to have those images available only to town personnel. Basically the same way it is with the paper archives. In fact, maybe even a little bit more secure because the paper archives are open to the public in terms of what's there. Over the course of time, as they are accessing the files and going through them for various other projects, and if they get a application for some work to be done on a given property, they look at the file digitally, go through it, and take a look and see if there's things there that should be pulled out, and go ahead and yank them. And one of the things that the project does is it says we can surface the documentation publicly. So anything that's in the archive, if there's for example, a floor plan that somebody needs, they could go ahead and share a link to the floor plan out to somebody with a timeout on it. And the person in the public will pull the link up and view it and download it if they want. But anything that would be exposed to the public would be curated by town staff before it was sent out, as far as this particular files are concerned. As this goes through, the entire sidebar to this, we've currently got, in a similar way, stored for us internally, all of the agendas and minutes for all the boards and commissions that we've had electronically for years and years and years and years. And those are all public record and don't have those types of concerns about their access. And once this gets up and gets brought up, it's one of the things we're looking at doing is making those available so that you'd have full text search capability on all the agendas and minutes that we've had for 10 years, 15 years as part of the project.
Great, okay. Any other questions? Brad, are you all set? Any questions?
All set. I'm ready to make the motion.
Okay, I hear a motion from Brad to approve the $114,786 for the purpose of digitizing property files. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by John. Any other questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Very much.
Thank you.
Moving on. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Selectmen?
Thank you. Hot off the press from Ray Allen today, I have the year-end numbers for the beaches, including concessions, very similar to last year. I'll give you the bottom line number. This year, we brought in $5,000 more than last year. So 468,000 last year, 2023, 473,000 in 2024. So remarkably consistent. Mini golf was within $2,000 of last year, and Harvey's Beach was 6,000 more. And then they have the concessions, which is 12,000 and smaller numbers. But anyway,
And I'm sorry, that includes the mini golf.
yes, the bottom line number, I'm happy to pass that around. I just printed that. He sent it to me in the last 2 hours. A lot of money. They're consistent in the amount of money they're bringing in. Pass that around. The one thing that's come up and probably doesn't impact the board right now is the probate court. When there was an agreement made when the probate courts were consolidated, that I think it's 9 or 10 towns, probate court would be in Old Saybrook, in the Old Saybrook Town Hall. They're in a closet. They're really in a large closet on the second floor. There's one window in the entire office and it doesn't open. And they're on the interior side of the building and that backs up against Park and Rec. So, I don't know that we have a solution for them in town hall. They are looking around, they're looking at rentals. We had a meeting the other day. I don't want to talk too much out of school here. I think the probate court could consider purchasing the building to be paid for by all the towns. It's a per capita fee, but I think that might make a lot more sense than renting. I brought that up at the meeting, but
Anyway, they're searching around, they're early in the process. Right now, the probate court for all the towns is very inexpensive because it's in our town hall. We kind of took it on. And it almost not as a favor, Mike Pace wanted the court here, he got the court here. He felt I think he thought, and I think the probate judge feels it is good in a very small scale for the local economy because people do come here, they might get lunch, whatever that impact is, I don't know. But, so they're looking around, it's a tough thing. The security for the probate court in town hall is not great. You know, they have higher emotion hearings sometimes. We are open to the public. We don't scan people when they come in. So their security setup is not ideal, according to them. And so it's been put out to all the town halls, all the first selectmen and town administrators as to kind of put our collective brains together and see if we can assist the probate court with a location. Just, that's really for, if that does happen, the amount that old Saybrook pays would increase probably by 10 or 15,000 a year over what we're doing right now. So if they move. So there would be an increase in the budget, and that's why I bring it up right now. Yes.
Who would get to vote on that? Would all the selectmen? vote?
Yeah, I mean, we would bring it to the Board of Finance.
No, I mean.
Yeah, we would vote on it, yes. The 9 or 10 towns would vote on it, but I would assume that if I said to the Board of Finance, hey, the probate court is gonna need 20,000 next year, and you guys are like, where did that come from? You want a due diligence process. So that was the purpose of the meeting, to say to the judge, we wanna help you. But I think our boards of finance, our town council in Clinton, that's what Michelle said in Clinton, we're gonna wanna know there was adequate due diligence if there's an increase in cost. But yes, we would say, yes, that's good. Let us go to our boards of finance to get the money to do what we need to do. I'll have more information over the next few months.
Can I make a suggestion? There's a property for sale across from the town hall.
I'm aware of that, Brad, and I brought it's actually something I thought of. But I don't want to get, again, it's kind of a sensitive matter. Don't want to get too far ahead of it. Very well aware of that. Good news, after many months, the Youth and Family Services new van will be delivered tomorrow morning.
Okay.
I mean, I've been emailing this guy like once every 4 to 6 weeks. Heather has been like, where's our van? And it is being delivered tomorrow morning. They were cleaning it today. So Heather will be out of town tomorrow, so she won't be able to receive it, but we will make sure it's in good hands. The WPCA, I just want to give you a quick update on this. The WPCA, which is the Water Pollution Control Authority, has voted to enter into an agreement with DEEP to move forward with a test. Originally, and we've been before the Board of Education to discuss this with them. Originally, the test was going to take place in 2 areas. One directly behind the school. So there are 4 zones that they're talking about. 2 zones are in that back practice field, which would be the north side of the high school property, let's say northwest. The other 2 zones were kind of, let's just say baseball field. Let's just put that out there. Long story short, we were gonna do a test in both areas. As it turns out, we've decided to only do a test in one area, and that is in the rear field in the most northwesterly section of that field. It will involve basically digging up all the soils there and kind of building, a disposal area for water, for effluent, but water for the test. That is, tentatively scheduled to take place over the course of the winter. And then that part of the field would be resodded. And it would not be available. We're in touch with Pam Listorti and Brendan Saunders, the athletic director at the high school field. But it would not be available for the spring, half that back field. The end result, in talking with our consulting engineer, Kurt Mailman at Fuss & O'Neill, is we were originally going to lay perforated piping in this field and not dig it up. It was just gonna lay the pipe, cover it up, let the grass grow. As it turns out, they geoprobed, that's what the word is, in that area, and they found that there is compacted soil. So that field in the back was getting standing water. And we were like, why is it getting standing water? That water, there's plenty of depth to groundwater. So some people were thinking that it was the actual groundwater and the field couldn't take any more water, but it wasn't the case. What was happening is it would rain, the field, the water couldn't get through this compacted soil when they apparently built the high school, and to where it needs to go to drain and basically a leach out. So what they decided to do, the safest way to do this is to dig up those soils, build it from basically 5 or 6 feet up, sod the top, put in the perforated pipe, and what you have is a perfectly draining system and a field that will never be wet again, in all likelihood, because it will be built to drain and it will be built to also take on additional water. So we went to DEP and said, if we do this, we were gonna do this in the baseball field too. Let us just do it in one area instead of two. Because if it works here, it's gonna work there. And they were good with that. So the good news is, I think it's good news, is that we're only going to disturb one area of one field. There's more good news is in that that field will drain better, number one. The Goodwin School wants some of the soil that will be dug up. Apparently the Goodwin School, when you drive into the Goodwin School, the field on the left, there's a need for soils over there. So we're gonna give them like 100 to 150 cubic yards of soil to make that area better. And we're talking about 600 cubic yards all in. And if we build it this way, even whenever this silly system gets built, if and when, we may, as a result of constructing it the way they want to build it, we will end up getting more bang for our buck in that one area. And as a result of that, probably will not have to perforate or leach water into 4 areas. We only have to leach water into 1 to 1.5 areas, which would be awesome. Because there'd be a lot less disturbance in total at the high school site. And it may not even involve the baseball field where they're, and where they play soccer and lacrosse. That back field, as I understand it, is more of a practice field.
You also have the softball field right there too, so I don't know if you're talking about just the area to the left.
To the left, for now. And Brendan Saunders was like, we can make that work. So we've had several discussions with DEP. We were hoping to do this sooner rather than later, but as it turns out, it's probably gonna be a winter project. And I just thought I'd update you on that. I mean, it's not preferable, any of it, but looks like several of you want to.
When will there be a cost associated to this?
Yes.
And have we already put that aside in the budget?
So what we plan on, what the WPCA has voted on is to use the funds available that are about $1 million approximately. There's some additional funds available. The good news is also, I keep saying good news, but this project is, I think, the bane of the town's existence. Let's just start with that. So the better news is the state is looking at this as a planning project and will pay for 55% of it, as opposed to 25%, which is the normal cost share of their clean water funding. So we've convinced them to take a look at this and say, it's really planning, it's not construction, which is the clean water, 25%, 50% for a loan, 25% grant, and then 25% general obligation bond. So that is really good news in the sense that whatever money we put out, we're gonna get back a good portion and still have working capital. That's how we've been using that money. Paul, did you look like you were?
The same question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So,
That's okay. I got an answer.
And the cost is not fully defined yet because the project changed all of a sudden. We're not just laying perforated pipe and pumping water in the ground. We're now digging it up and building it to make it incredibly efficient. I actually like it because at the end of the day, we are going to be disturbing, if we end up using the high school field, we are going to disturb a lot less of the high school field and fields. George, looked like you were. So,
No, you're all set.
So a couple questions. So you had approached the BOE to talk about this when I was still in the BOE.
yeah, I know.
And it never happened at that time.
It never, no, this is how long it's taken,
Right.
literally.
That was probably 3 years ago, at least?
Yeah.
At least?
Yeah.
Maybe more than that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing.
Yeah, no, I understand. So how deep will these pipes be?
So
I didn't catch that.
the perforated piping will only be, I think, 18 inches.
Okay. So you have to dig up the field, even if they dig up
They're gonna
the
dig,
compact,
they're gonna dig like 5 feet,
right, but they'll still.
rebuild it,
it's still-
actually sod it, and then lay the perforated pipe. Because you don't, that's how it's gonna go. They're gonna- I believe that's how it's gonna go. Don't quote me on that.
It would seem to me that the perforated pipe would be below the side. Right?
No, it's in the soils.
Right, but in the side on top of the soil?
It's 18 inches down
Is where the pipe is.
is where the pipe is.
And then you have 18 inches of soil, and then you have
And
sand.
then there's sod. I'm not sure what the sequence is.
Okay, all right, I was
Um,
just trying to picture it in my
But to
mind.
lay sod, I think they use heavy machinery, and I think that it impacts the piping. So I think that's why the sequence is correct.
Okay,
Anyway, I will keep you updated on that.
and one last question.
yeah.
When all that is done, this is a test. How long will the test go for?
It
Is
has
it
to be a
year?
month or two,
A month or two, okay.
very quick.
So by the end of.
By the end of this
spring,
fiscal year, I would say,
Yeah,
we
we should
will,
know.
we will have an idea as to what we need to build.
Okay,
We are not looking at any additional costs in the fiscal 26 year bonding, and maybe not in 27.
yeah, because there'll be a lot of planning.
So, yes,
So I don't want to get into the WPCA whole discussion, so this is our line, let me know, right? So I mean, this is just one piece of the entire project. This is gonna settle homes for a particular area, right? And so what percentage, let's say all this works, let's pretend all this works, right? Just some question. If all this works, what percentage of the remaining WPCA homes that needs work will actually be accomplished by this?
all of it. This would finish the project.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
This would end the not end, the authority would continue because there's taxes to be
Right,
collected
right,
from
right, right.
homeowners, but
The whole point of this is to finish the project. Finish,
So this meets the court order.
it would meet the court order. It would finish the remaining homes that are not code compliant.
All the homes down Plumbank Road and all the way out, they're all done?
There are approximately 600 homes that still need to be done. Maybe a few more than that, 650. Of that, about 75 can have septic systems built on them. So there's about 550 homes that would need to be connected to some sort of community system. And that's what this would do.
I see. Nice. Thank you.
Okay.
Amen. Oh, Sustainable Saybrook, I just want to make a quick note. I mean, we all know we got gold certification. The, Kate is going to be hosting a party in November. You're all more than welcome to come by. It's a big deal. I think there'll be a lot of folks. I want to say it's a Thursday night. Saybrook, Thursday, late afternoon, rather. I'll get the date to you. I think I stated it before. I'll get it to you.
This is a celebration of the.
It is. It's not a celebration just for us. It's where they're holding their annual meeting. And they're gonna give out awards to all the towns that got silver certified, bronze certified, and then, of course, the gold certifications. I also did a podcast for them just the other day, which should be up. We'll post that also. They have their own podcast called The Impact. The tide gate, this is something we raised in a previous meeting. We were out on site with Chalker Beach with like 8 people from DEP, Chris Costa, myself, Bill Claffey, a bunch of us. Went out and looked at the tide gate. Chalker Beach folks have come up with what they think is a temporary solution. We are now having DEP basically approve that with a bunch of conditions. We are having an internal meeting on it and then a meeting with Chalker Beach, and then we're gonna go back to DEP. I'm just telling you because I know it's something that you brought up at an ARPA meeting or a Board of Finance.
Or the finance,
Okay.
we were talking about the use of surplus. funds.
Yeah, so that is moving along and I'm happy to keep you updated on that. As you know, we have 2 large sidewalk projects that are in the works. One, Saybrook Junction, the other one on the west side of town, Dairy Queen to Westbrook. We are targeting the Dairy Queen to Westbrook project for the spring, early summer, before July 4th. And we are targeting the Saybrook Junction project for the fall of next year. Just so you know, I know we've talked about those over the last year quite a bit. The Beaver Dam Trail Project, really great news there. Bill Claffey has done a ton of work up there, all the conduits in the ground. That is going out to bid, I think next Tuesday. Which is October 21 or 22. It'll go out to bid. The bids will be out till November 21st. We'll get our bids in. We'll select a contractor by the end of the year. We anticipate that project, as you know, to be about a $2 million project, anywhere from 1.8 to 2.4. But that moved along really nicely more recently. I also want to remind everybody, encourage everyone who would like to come by Luigi's for Mike Cronin's retirement party. I think, you know, Mike Cronin represented the town for 50 years. He might have represented some of you in your house closings or in wills or anything else you did locally. So if you knew Mike, feel free to come by. That is October 28th at Luigi's at 5 o'clock. And we'd like to have a nice big crowd there for Mike. He knows about it, not a surprise.
What was the date again?
October 28th at 5 o'clock. I did solicit some donations to offset the cost from that, you know, some of the law firms that I just said, if you'd like to donate, you're more than welcome to. And the new firm that's representing us as town council donated. Pat McHale from McHale, Keenan Escalera and McHale donated, and Halloran and CH also donated, as did Dave Royston
personally. Because Dave and Mike are
Yeah.
old-time colleagues. And that's a little bit of what I have going on.
Great. Any questions for the first selectman? Hearing none, we'll continue on. Liaison reports. Any liaison reports tonight? None. Comments from board members? We have the same number of public that we had at the beginning of the meeting, so we're just there. On the comments from the chair, the only thing I have to bring up is the potential scheduling of a special meeting. So
Oh, right.
where we are right now in this ARPA process is the ARPA committee last week met, allocated the balance of the funds that were available. But also there's 3 or 4 projects where we had outstanding funds that we needed to get additional information as to whether or not those projects were ultimately going to be able to be completed by the end of 2026. So we have that going on. As Carl mentioned at a previous meeting, we are looking at being able to provide the town some level of flexibility with the ARPA funds by doing a switch between some of the town-funded projects which are eligible for ARPA money and bringing the ARPA projects to the town funds. But in order to do that, we have to do this in a processed way. So when ARPA meets next Tuesday, hopefully that committee will make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to move forward with that, what I call a swap. And then the timing is perfect because the Board of Selectmen meet at 6 o'clock after we meet at 5 o'clock. And so we could have, if the Board of Selectmen agreed, we could have that part of this done by then. The question, I guess, to the first selectman is when he wants to have the town meeting, because we canceled the November 5th meeting of the Board of Finance because that's election day. Our next meeting will not be until the 19th, and that might be too far into November for a scheduled town meeting. So that's a long way of getting to, if we want to have a town meeting in November to discuss that swap, we should probably schedule a special meeting of the Board of Finance, and I have a recommended date for that, but I'll leave it. Where are you on time at this point?
We will receive from ARPA next Tuesday and then at the Board of Selectmen meeting, make a recommendation to the Board of Finance that these infrastructure projects be funded with ARPA money, and then the money we put aside for Beaver Dam Trail, for instance, be reallocated towards some of the ARPA projects that have gone forward. Is your recommended date perhaps October 29th?
Correct. As a matter of fact, so that's a free Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's a 5th Tuesday, so it's a free Tuesday, no other meetings are taking place, and so we could do, and it should be a relatively brief
Right.
meeting, so one could do it by Zoom
So-
if we needed to.
I would recommend you do it on October 29th, since it's going to be probably, that will be the only agenda, those will be the only agenda items. It can be partly remote if people don't want to come in, it should be easy to be a remote meeting or in person. And then why don't you, let me think about that.
Okay,
When the town meeting, as soon as you do your work, it's just a question of the Board of Selectmen getting together and scheduling a town meeting.
right. And
Now, we have the annual town meeting on the 4th Monday of November, which is Thanksgiving week. It doesn't always fall on Thanksgiving week, and I've already made some plans to be away, but I might reschedule that, so I'm not sure, that's why.
Could do it the Monday after Thanksgiving.
You could, absolutely, and it would be not the annual meeting, but a special.
You're
town
right.
meeting. So,
So let me then just quiz the board, if you have your calendars with you. would people be available at 6:30 on the 29th if we had a special meeting?
Yes.
Any objections? Brad, would you be okay with that?
Absolutely. Excuse me.
All right, so that will be the plan. We will, Jerry will schedule a special meeting
Yep. Yeah.
and we will move that forward. It'll be a single agenda item, but it will be one heck of an item. And with that, I'll take a motion for adjournment. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Can I keep this for information purposes?
Yes.
Thank you.